Again, I'm going to dive now a little bit deeper into the API and talk about the methods and events here. How am I doing pace-wise? Is this exciting? Okay. Should I put the music back on? Anything? So we tried to keep the methods very, very simple. That was really important. I've worked on APIs before. Before Ribbit, I was at Yahoo working on Maps API. And the API is fantastic. It was one of the first real Flex applications and APIs. One of the things I learned working with developers is you just can't make things simple enough. I mean, you're already worrying about all the other code and client-side logic that you're building. So when you integrate a third-party API, it really should be as simplistic. So I wanted the method names to reflect what they were actually doing and not, some obscure method name that you're going to have to figure out what that does, right? So that's perfectly fine, by the way. We accept phone calls during the session. Sort of apropos. It's good. So some of the methods: make call, pretty self-explanatory. Answer call, ignore call, hang up. Pretty, looking at your phone, you know what those are, right? I mean, making a call, you pass a phone number. Answer a call allows you to answer it. Ignore will send it to voicemail. Very, very simple stuff. These are just some of the call control, and I'll be diving into those in just a second. As for events with call control, incoming call, call connected, call disconnected, call hung up, pretty understandable. I bolded incoming call because it's my favorite event. And it's kind of strange, but before working with the Ribbit API, even though I've been doing Flash for 10 years and ActionScript mostly since Flex came out in 2004, the Ribbit API is the first API I actually worked with that had pushed events. What that meant is you don't have to, most methods and events have sort of a send response model where you send something and the server sends something back to you and you're sort of waiting. In this case, once you log into the Ribbit API, you put in an add event listener for incoming call, and your application just sits there at such a point where you get a call coming in, the server will actually yell to your application, say, you have an incoming call, and here's that information, and then it's up to your user to answer it or ignore it. But I just love the fact that this is pushing events to you. It's pretty cool. You'll see what I mean when we get things going, but it's very exciting. One of the objects associated with call control is call object. I kind of talked about that a little bit. That has the caller ID information, who you're calling, what their name and number is, and such. And it's pretty cool stuff. Messaging. Some of the methods and events here: get call logs, which allow you, and why get call logs associated with messages? Call log is the industry term for, like, in your cell phone bill, and you have a list of all the calls that you made that month, that period. Call logs are those, and we provide those because some folks who build applications aren't just in it for getting messages, but they want to show your call history. And from that, of course, you can then look up phone numbers and retrieve information. So it's pretty cool. Play messages, record message, send new message, just some examples. Events are new voicemail, call logs loaded, message recorded, message sent, just a sampling there. And new voicemail, again, bolded because that's a pushed event. That's something, there's nothing I do on my end that will send me that event. It's basically someone called me, I ignored the call, and I received a new voicemail. And that's the application telling me that I have a new voicemail. And then some of the objects associated to messaging are call log details and call log tags. So basically, those are objects. I did a little graphical rendering of the call log details because I thought it was cool. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is the object that we send when you're loading all messages and call logs. And you can see some of the properties here off of that object. The start time, which is when the message was recorded, so you know when that was left for you. Notes, you actually allow you to append notes to the message. So when you receive it, people can, when you listen to a message, say you're a salesperson and you're building an app for, a sales team, they can listen to the message and it says, so-and-so's calling you. Yeah, I'm interested in that deal. I just need to come down on this price and such and such. You, as the sales executive listening to that message, can type in a note saying, be sure and follow up, check with purchasing and see if we can get a better price on that model or something like that. But notes are pretty cool. And then personally, obviously, if you're, have an application that, say, letting people arrange dates with each other. You know, notes might be helpful. Say, you know, note to self, never call her again, something like that, right? So length, of course, is the duration of the message, which is obviously important. And what that allows you to do, which is pretty cool, is it allows you to do sort of progress bars. So when someone plays the message, you can sort of show over a span, you know, where that message is. Urgency is priority, is the exclamation point in you know, Outlook or Thunderbird, and that's basically allows you to set that for the message. So if you get something that's sent to you as urgent in your application, say you're putting all your messages in a data grid, you could make that row red because it's urgent, right? And then of course there's a way to toggle that. You can set that. That of course gets saved on the back end on the Ribbit server side, and it's there. Heard, of course, once again, that's the flag that tells whether the message was heard or not. So again, new messages could come into that data grid, and you could render them as bold, and once they're heard, not bold. And then of course transcribed text, which is probably the coolest one of all. When the message comes into our system, and it's an optional service, by default, it's there for all developers. And it's a lesser grade transcription than what's on a production side, but it is still pretty cool. And I actually think it's more of an advantage because it's there all the time for you to test out. It's basically, the message comes, it gets sent to a service anonymously where it's automatically rendered as text, speech to text, and then that data gets returned back to us and stored in the database on the Ribbit server end, and then of course that data is there in the object when you pull it. So you can actually read the message as well as play it. So that gets populated in the transcribed text.